Today's adventure takes us to Lisle, Illinois, and behind me is Lisle Cemetery. Now this cemetery is off a very busy Odgen Avenue, very busy road here in Lisle, Illinois. But almost 190 years ago, when Luther and James Hatch came here to Lisle as the first settlers, it wasn't so busy back then. And the neat thing about it is James and Luther Hatch are buried in this cemetery. So we're going to find those graves today, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. And we're just going to walk around and find some of these old tombstones. So please come with me as we explore Lisle Cemetery. Okay guys, we are in Lisle Cemetery, and we are right next to a very busy road. So I apologize if there's any background noise from traffic. And this cemetery, as we look, a mixture of old and new. And in front of me is some of the older. Looks like Wills might be the last name. Hard to tell. Unfortunately, the inscription is very worn, although you still see the handshake there at top, which is a favorite amongst the old tombstones. We have Charlotte here. That looks like a willow tree, another favorite amongst the older tombstones. And for those of you that have watched my channel for a while, you know that these are probably my favorite type of tombstones because these are the large rectangular ones. And usually these are the older ones. Let's see if we can see anything on here. A little hard to read as well. Let's see. It's like an R. Robert is the name. It's like a D.I. Dixon. Robert Dixon. He died, looks like 1842, or is that a 12? Is that a 1? I don't know. I think that's a 4. 1842. Aged, hard to tell, 30-something years. I'm just happy I was able to read that. And next to it we have another one, identical, related I'm sure. You can see that willow tree there, which is hard to see. Anne is the name. Wife of Robert Dixon. Died October 17th, 1842. Aged, looks like 30-something. So they died not too far apart. He died in 1842 as well. She died October, looks like October. When did he die? June maybe? They died in the same year, and they were pretty young. They were in their 30s. And yet a third one. Let's see if we could find what this one is. Same type of marker as the last two. Oh, this one's very... Dixon died. That one's harder to read. 16 years old. I bet he died, or she, because I don't know the gender. I bet he died at the same time. I assume that's maybe his parents, perhaps. Whole family here. Same tombstones, died around the same time. Very, very sad to see that. As we look, Thomas is the name on this one. Died, looks like 1891, age 79 years old. So Thomas lived a pretty long life for back then. That's a very long life. There are not very tall monuments in here, which I'm kind of surprised. This is one of the taller ones. It's an obelisk about 7 feet tall. George is the name. Baker, last name. Died 1873. 43 years old, it looks like. Let's see if there's anyone else here with George. No, there is not. Just George on that one. And next to George, we have this Baker one here. All it says is Baker on it. 1851 to 1894. Now, does it have a name here? Very hard to tell. It did have a name here at one time. You can't see what that is any longer. Very difficult to tell that one. And finally, we have another Baker one. Eddie, son of something and E. Baker, died. Oh yeah, that one's, I can't read that one. Maybe you can read it better through the camera. But Eddie, their son, passed away. Well, this is definitely the older section here, and all these markers unfortunately are knocked over. This one's unreadable. I do see at the bottom there, daughter of somebody, Graves, appears to be the last name. Fallen into the ground. Now a part of the earth, just like the people that are buried here. This one we might be able to read. Let's see. Anna looks to be the name. Wife of George Him, H-E-I-M, died 1861. Unfortunately, I can't see what the age is. The rest of that tombstone is worn too much. Let's see what we have here. We have Lily, it looks like. Lily Ann, I want to say. I don't think this is going to help because it is in direct sunlight. No, not going to help. I wonder if that can be read on the screen. I'll have to see if I can do something in post-production to enhance that image a little bit so we can read it. And immediately behind me, we have one here that is unfortunately toppled. Can't read that one either. And then several here that are just stacked up. What a shame. I do see somebody has a candle here, which is interesting. I believe that to be a candle. Well, we can see something here. Here, we can see this. Lucy Ann Graves died sometime, it looks like 1881 is when she passed away. And then we have multiple tombstones in the ground here. This one we might be able to read. Oh, this is going to be difficult. This is going to be difficult, but we might be able to read it. Now, something who, I mean, this has a lot of writing on it. Is that 1839? I don't know. Unfortunately, that one's not readable. There's one in the ground over here. Let's see if we can read this one. Looks like Francis may be the name on this one. That's too bad. A lot of these are just not readable anymore. Just too old, too worn. Time and weather has not been a friend to these tombstones. And it's almost a shame that these have fallen face up. I'd prefer they'd fall face down, because at least then the inscriptions would be preserved. That's too bad. Okay, let's see what else we can find in here. Oh, here it is, guys. Okay, I think this is, yes, this is the founder of Lisle, Illinois, Luther Augustus Hatch. Him and his brother James, as you see here, are the first settlers of Lisle. So this modern, bustling town, you know, at one time had nobody, and Luther and James came here and they first settled here. And this must be Luther's original tombstone. As you can see, they did replace it, thankfully, with a nice one. And this tombstone says sacred in memory of Polly, wife of, now Polly was Luther's wife, so Polly was Luther's first wife. I have this written down here. So Luther Hatch married Polly back in 1836, although it says here, daughter of so-and-so died April 1837. So, Find a Grave says 1830. Oh, it does say she did die in 1837. So she married Luther in 1836, and unfortunately, she died a year later in 1837. And then Luther ended up marrying Laura Kidder in 1837. And here's Hannah, wife of somebody. Not the wife of Luther, or at least according to records, because Laura was the wife of Luther after Polly passed away. Here's Freddie Hatch, one of Frederick and Hannah's sons. So I think Freddie was the great-grandson of Luther. And here's some more information here. Frederick and Annie, his wife. I wonder where James is. Oh, here's James right here. Here we have James Hatch. So he is the man that founded Lisle, along with his brother Luther. Now, interesting story about this man right here, James Crombie Hatch. So not only was he one of 9 siblings, James and his wife Charlotte had 4 children. 3 of them made it to adulthood. But what's really interesting about James, when he first arrived in Chicago, he stayed at Wolf's Point, which is, those Chicagoans, if you're a Chicagoan, you know where Wolf Point is. That's where the rivers branch off, the Chicago River branch off north and south. And he stayed there, and he was robbed of $34 in banknotes. Now, which doesn't seem like a lot of money now, that was a considerable amount of money at the time, and he was supposed to use those banknotes to buy cattle. So this was the first, so he instigated the first criminal trial in the city of Chicago back in July of 1833. Now, wrap that around your head a little bit. The city of Chicago, the first criminal trial back in 1833. Here we go, 105th Illinois Infantry. Thank you for your service. I mean, with the tens of thousands of criminal trials that have occurred in Chicago, Illinois, his was the first. Just kind of amazing. And he's the first man to discover Lisle. Just very, very, very amazing. Oh, this is sad. Brian McCormick, U.S. Navy, June 1977, October 30th, 1996. That's very sad. And there's mother and son. I wonder what happened to Mr. McCormick, that he died at such a young age. I assume he died in the service. Very, very sad for that young man. Here we have another tombstone, unreadable. I just love coming to these cemeteries where you have the founders, the people that, the first settlers that came to this area. I mean, this area was nothing. And I'm along Odgen Avenue, which is a major thoroughfare now. A very busy street with businesses and all kinds of stuff. And there was just nothing back then, nothing but fields. And this guy decided, I am going to stay here and make this my home. It's just amazing, really. Let's see if we could read this one here. This one seems very old. It looks like Mary something. I felt some, that's weird. All right, that's weird. I felt like heat coming off of it when I got close to it, but it's cool, it's in the shade. But I felt like hot, like it was radiating heat for a brief minute there, a brief second. Yeah, it's hard to read. That was odd, very odd. And we have a nice little bench here. What a great cemetery. It's the veteran, Eugene Smith. Thank you for your service. Fantastic little cemetery, lots of history here. Well, this is a shame, as we have just a pile of tombstones. I saw a lot of bases as I was exploring, and who knows how many tombstones are here. There's a number of them just laying here. I mean, I guess when you have to mow this lawn, you don't want to run over tombstones, so you stack them in an area where you won't run over them. I haven't looked over in this section yet. There's a couple that I see over here that I'd like to take a look at. I don't expect I'm going to be able to read anything on these two, because these are very well worn. Yeah, there's nothing we can read on this one, I don't think. I see an A, E, A-H. Okay, this is like playing a game. H-A-I-E, I don't know, C, I don't know, maybe I'm not putting two and two together here. Let's see if we can read this one. Harrison, Harrison appears to be the name on this. And unfortunately, that's all we're going to be able to read on that, as Harrison's tombstone is not good. Something Carpenter died. Yeah, this is hard to read as well. Out of 1840s, it looks like here, but difficult to read. Okay, Everett from Cemetery Views got a good one for you here. This is one that should be on your page. Minozzi, Richard Minozzi. Look at this awesome modern tombstone monument. I mean, it's just out of marble, and I don't know how they did that. Like this is very rough. I guess it's just not polished. And right next to it, they have the polished marble. Very nice monument, very nice tombstone. Guys, I love finding these old cemeteries. I call these like the ground zero cemeteries, because this is where the founder of this town, him and his brothers, founded Lisle, Illinois. You can't go further back than that. I mean, this is the ground zero cemetery, and it's really remarkable finding these things and looking at the history and how they came here and who they married and how many kids they had. just great cemeteries. I love cemeteries like this. Again, thank you very much for coming with me today. And as always, until next time, keep exploring.